Good afternoon, everyone. It is the afternoon here in Maastricht, and we're here with you at Maastricht University with two Danielles and Dominique. Today, Danielle will be telling you about some of the practical things on the Mooc, also some of the dates that you might be interested in knowing, like the when you get your certificate and all of that. She'll also address some of the questions that you've been asking in the discussion forums. And Danielle and Dominique will tell you about the other online courses that we have here that you might be interested in. Danielle?
Yeah, so welcome everyone. This is the last time we'll be talking to you. I just wanted to remind you that this week's assignment, the last assignment, is the only individual assignment in the course. It's an individual reflection. That's a very open assignment. And we're really looking forward to hearing from you. The other thing is that after this week, formally the course is finished. We'll leave it open for a few weeks to give people the opportunity to look at the materials. Also, some of you might be lagging behind a little bit, and the deadlines in this Mooc are soft deadlines, so you still have the opportunity to hand in some of the assignments a bit later if you want. I think about end of next week we'll start collecting the data and awarding the certificates of participation for everybody who has handed in all the assignments and the evaluation questionnaire. The Mooc will then stay open for the rest of 2017, so up to the 31st of December of this year. You can still inspect all the materials and also the discussions that you've had in your own teams. If you have any questions or practical questions after this Hangout, please ask us at the discussion fora and we will look at those and give you answers as best as we can. So should we go on to them first?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to put up the presentation?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I've made a presentation because I'm responsible for the certificate courses she offers. And these are online courses, fully taught online for 16 weeks, 10 hours a week, or 8 weeks, 20 hours a week. Certificate courses, one on assessment and evaluation, one on curriculum and instruction, leadership, and on workplace-based learning. They are research-based, and they take your working situation as a starting point. So that means learning and applying at the same time. There are fixed and flexible starting dates, and it can be an excellent preparation for our Master of Health Professions Education. These are the characteristics and the student profile. If you have expertise in teaching, you have a bachelor or master's degree. For example, you're a course coordinator, a tutor, a trainer, a middle manager, a coordinator, a supervisor. You might be interested in following one of these certificate courses. Have flexible and fixed starting dates. And on the next slide, starting dates on short notice I mentioned. All information on starting dates, on all more specified information on the courses can be found there. Don't hesitate to contact. That's it, I think. Is it 1 minute?
Can I please ask the person who has just come online to turn off their microphone, please? Thank you. If you have questions, you can later on turn on your microphone and we'll definitely answer your question. Yes, Dominic, if you want to.
Okay, hello, welcome. My name is Dominic Waterval. I'm coordinator of the summer course in Maastricht. And on that occasion, I would like to invite all of you to come to Maastricht on the 25th or 29th of June, because then we will hold our PBL summer course. It's not online, it is a real compact course of 1 week. It is closely connected to the content of the Mooc. Our objective is that by now you are very much familiar with the principles of problem-based learning, and we would like to extend that knowledge in how to use these principles in when you design learning materials, when you assess learning materials, but also how you use them in your teaching behavior. It's 1 week, but it's also an opportunity for you to network. Last year we had 24 participants, ranging from 14 nationalities. So it's also a good opportunity to hear how they tackle or whether they experience the same problems as you have. If you have a lot of questions, there's a lot of information you can find on our website. And feel free to ask any questions that you have. And I hope to see you in Maastricht.
We will also send you an email to give you all that information through an email, so you'd have access to all the web links that you might need. Daniel, do you still wanted to address a few things?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify also the differences between the courses that she offers as a follow-up, which are paid courses that also have a lot more of close guidance and feedback by our educational staff, whereas the Mooc now has been provided to you for free by the School of Health Professions Education. The other slight difference is that the other courses that she provides are somewhat more focused on the health professions domain, whereas in this Mooc we've also had people from very different domains. So I thought it was important for you to see those differences. There are a number of interesting questions that have appeared on the discussion fora in the last week or so, and I thought I'd try to address some of them, and if my colleagues have anything to add, then they can add them as well. So we saw a question this morning about how do tutors promote independent and student-centered learning when, on the other hand, they're responsible for giving just-in-time information and guiding the process. A very interesting question, because indeed there's a balance there between asking a lot of questions to make the students talk and to make the students discuss. So when I'm a tutor, that's always my first preferred strategy, to ask questions to get them to talk. At some stage, if they really get stuck, it might be necessary to give them a hint. I really try to avoid lecturing or giving long explanations. If they really get stuck, I try to give hints, or I might even send them back home and tell them to look up some bits of information beforehand. However, if they say things that are really wrong, I do tend to correct that. So if there are really obvious misunderstandings and it seems that the group is not self-correcting those, I won't let them go home with a wrong understanding of the learning materials either. So there's a balance in there, and it's a balance every time again to juggle that around, I think. I saw another interesting question about assessment. Somebody asked us to reflect a bit on how assessment is organized and whether that is organized longitudinally or after each block. And that's another interesting question, because when we started here in Maastricht, there was no block testing. Now, the original medical curriculum, which was the first to use problem-based learning here, only had longitudinal tests so many times a year, some of them knowledge-based, some of them skills-based, OSCE tests, but there were no block tests. And the idea was that the students would study and study, and that there would be exams that they then wouldn't need to prepare for, because they should have learned this during the year. That's no longer the case. Over the years, new insights have occurred, but there's also been a lot of pressure, I think, from the institution, from the government as well, to closely monitor the progress. There's pressure to monitor which students are not making enough progress, to give study advices to people who are lagging behind too much. So we now have very much a hybrid system with some block testing, which is usually a combination of a knowledge test and some maybe a little project or an essay or a laboratory session where people have to hand in a description of what they did afterwards. And there also still are some longitudinal things that are progress tests that we do 4 times a year, knowledge-based tests that are the same for students in all years, where they have to have a growing number of questions correct when they're further on in their studies. There are things around communication skills or professional behavior that are tested and put into a portfolio and then discussed with a mentor. And I see now somebody asking, how do you test the process? And I presume that you mean the process in the tutorial session. Some of our curricula, but not all, have an explicit evaluation of the process within the group, where, for instance, halfway the period and at the end of the period, all the student members of the tutor group and the tutor will fill in a brief questionnaire about the process in the group and about the participation of all the people involved. And then they will spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes to discuss the results of this group process assessment. In some studies, that is something that is done but not graded. In some studies, this is even graded and part of your portfolio as an aspect of professional behavior, in the sense that if you behave professionally in your tutor group, that's already a preload to behaving professionally in your career, future career as a doctor or in some other profession.
So that's interesting that even within our own house, we have different programs tackling this issue in several ways. There is not a one way of doing it. The challenge for you is to be aware of the pitfalls and the advantages of selecting an intervention method. If you do it like this, what are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? See if it works, change it, or keep it. That's the challenge.
Yeah. And so, yes, there's a question. Do you have a rubric to make that assessment of process consistent among different tutors? Rubric, we do have small forms with a number of questions for people to, and then all the participants will fill in that form, and the tutor as well, and then they'll discuss the results. I'm not sure they're really rubrics in the sense of that, but there are forms.
I'm not aware, that we have programs in which they really mark it on a scale, on a number of 0 to 10. Most of them don't. They give informative feedback.
Yeah, but that's true. But in some of our programs, the tutor will give a mark for professional behavior to the students, and the mark that will go into the portfolio. And in some other programs, this is an activity that is done within the tutor group, but it's not graded and will not be recorded anywhere else. And tutors are trained to do this. Everybody who starts working here as a teacher is obliged to do a tutor training course. But we've recently also started to do refresher meetings with tutors before every course, where in a 2 or 3 hour meeting, there'll be a refresher course on specific issues, and one of them might be, how do you spend time on process assessment? I think my personal experience is anyway that when a group functions well, your role as a tutor is actually most focused on observing that process and evaluating that process with students. because they have to study the materials themselves, and if they do that, then they can usually bring in a lot of the content themselves, but the tutor then, as my experience, puts more emphasis on the process. I hope that answers the question a little bit. I saw some other interesting questions there. Can we make those assessment forms available? I'll have a look if we can make those assessment forms available. I think one of our PhD students has developed a form for that we might be able to share. I can't promise, but I'll try to make them available. Is there any question that other people would like to ask now that are present? Because we're already running 15 minutes. I think there's some other really interesting topics addressed in the discussion forum, and it would be really nice if you also gave your own thoughts on those, because I think, as is clear now, we don't always have the answers. Problem-based learning in a curriculum takes continuous attention, continuous discussion of how to do this and how to keep on improving and innovating it. I think I'd like to leave it at that, but Dominique, add a few words if you want.
No, I'm just wondering what's on here, because I see that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Screen has turned black. That's fine.
Yeah. So I think, Mariam.
Okay. Yeah. If you still have questions, you can ask your questions on the discussion forums, because then it might be the question of other people as well, and we'll try to answer it there for you. And you also see, if you see questions of other people, please try to answer them. And also, we are always available through our emails. It was nice to have you here today, and if nobody else has anything to say,
Yeah, one very last thing, because we won't be talking to you again. I'd like to add that I've really, really tremendously enjoyed this course. I've enjoyed being in contact with all of you, and I'm convinced that we have certainly learned just as much as any of you from this course. So thank you very much for participating.
Good luck for everyone.
Good luck.
yeah. Okay, thank you everyone, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.